city has been rebuilt with the help of those who were once foes, as the bell in the Peace Tower tolls at the exact moment of the blast, and the memory of the dead brings a halt to all activity. In the moment of awful remembrance, members of all faiths join to mourn. There are many here who survived that day, and they come now to weep and pray for those who perished, and to burn incense according to the ancient Shinto ritual. But it's only a pause for grief and memory, for the rebirth of Hiroshima is a huge undertaking, and already its 20th century business district has supplanted the flimsy structures that were once leveled by the bomb. So Hiroshima rises again out of the destruction that carved its name forever in the history of the atomic age.
それまで原爆ということ、アメリカが原爆を使ったということを、なるべくあんまり知られたくなかったんでしょうね。ジャーナリズムは広島の問題に触れることを、割合避けてたんですね、それまで。
Nagano-san had to wait until 1952, the year of Japan's independence, to do his first report on Hiroshima, a town he had passed through for the first time only 2 days before the dropping of the atomic bomb. These young Christians meeting in a church agreed to be photographed, but from a distance.
この写真を撮って数日後に小さなデパートに私は買い物に入ったんですよ。とか私の姿を見た一人の女性がさっとその店の奥へ隠れたんですね。でふっと気がついたんですが、この中の女性の一人なんですね。その人は顔なんかに傷跡はなんかないんで、おそらく自分が被災したってことを、被爆したってことを隠してたんだろうと思うんですね。
Among those returnees who had been witness to or taken part in some of the atrocities committed during Japan's 15 years of invasions, rare were those like Yoshio Shinozuka who broke the silence. Shinozuka even went so far as to erect a commemorative stone to the memory of the victims of his unit in the grounds of this temple. Held prisoner in China for over 10 years, Shinozuka only returned to Maizuru in 1956, where he was welcomed home by his father.
親が来てまして、親と何年ぶりかの対面ですし、その辺の話があって、あそこにはそう長くいたわけじゃないんです。親としてはですね、よく生きてたという思いがしたと思いますけどね。舞鶴に上陸してもみんな派手な格好をしてるし、非常に陽気だしですね、明るいし、戦争中はそういうあれはもう見られなかったですね。
In Manchuria, Shinozuka had been transferred to a regiment which tested biological and chemical weapons on prisoners, Unit 731.
親は武順戦犯管理所にいるっていうのを手紙を通じて知ってるし、事柄ですし、その話を親にしてもですね、
Shinozuka had no support from either his family nor the people of his village. It had therefore taken a lot of courage to erect this memorial, and the hospitality of the priest in charge of the temple meant a lot to him.
この舞台についてはですね、千葉県はたくさんいるんですよ。それで大橋が茂原駅に着いた時、先ほどもちょっと触れましたけど、南山一部隊っていう旗を立てて大橋を出迎えに来たわけです。その時に部隊長閣下のところに帰還報告に行けと、一緒に行ってやるからと。
Returning to Japan in 1945, General Ishii had come into contact with the Americans, but they hadn't bothered him. Shinozuka categorically refused to meet with him.
私はそれに対して反発しました。 大橋はもう彼の部下じゃないのになぜ大橋が帰還報告に行かなきゃいけないのかと。
Shinozuka and other repentant former soldiers collaborated in making these faithful reproductions, down to the outfits, gestures, and instruments used, of his unit's vivisection teams. In doing so, they drew even more flack from those who had decided to hush up the crimes of Unit 731.
ではその周りの人から篠塚さんは中国で洗脳されてきたからと言われた時にどのようにお答えになられましたか？
もう大橋は洗脳されてきたと洗脳されたと思ってると。しかし前のあれがどういうことであったのか。洗脳されたから人間らしくなったんだと。人間に立ち返ることができたんだと。大橋は洗脳っていうことについてはそう反発はしませんでした。確かに大橋の頭は洗ってきれいにしたんだと。かつての軍国主義のですねそのままじゃないと。洗脳だと言うなら言えと。そういう態度で。だからあんまりそれについては洗脳もされてきたからうんぬんって言うけれどそれについては反発も反論もしませんでした。問題は人間性の取り返したかどうかの問題だと。
After 1957, no more repatriations were expected in Maizuru or elsewhere, either of civilians or former soldiers. The whole setup, the landing stages, the posts with messages of welcome, the hoardings and the processing buildings simply disappeared. On the other hand, the story of one of the last groups liberated from the Siberian camps would stay engraved in the Japanese memory for a long time. 4 years before being freed, several men learnt by heart a long message composed by one of their fellow detainees just before he died. This message, 4,500 words long, was addressed to their comrades' children, wife, and mother. They learnt it by heart so that the camp authorities, or those occupying their homeland, could not intercept it. Each man learnt an extract of the whole message and, as a safety measure, part of another extract. In the fullness of time, the whole message was reconstituted and passed on to the family. The passage intended for the man's mother ended thus: Mother, how you have waited for my return. If I could only see you once before I die. Please forgive my disloyalty of dying before you, who waited for 10 long years to see the day of our reunion. Tokyo, Osaka, Naha, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Nagoya. In time, all these cities were rebuilt. No trace of the past now remains, only silence. Everywhere, silence. 60 years after the end of the Second World War, the Japanese still suffer from painful memories and are unable to get over the inner conflict which torments them. They are torn between their collective responsibility for the crimes committed by their armies and a strong feeling of having been manipulated, even massacred by a West which had always fascinated them.